Fantastic new release here from Tim Hendricks, called Velvet Staircase. We have been promising this conversation, and I must be honest that this is very, very surreal because we are literally talking to this guy that is on the other side of the globe. And I want to say a very, very good evening to Tim Hendricks. Man, how are you doing?
Good evening. How you doing, John? Good. I'm not doing too badly, actually. Yeah, a little
That's great to
exhausted.
hear it, man. Yeah, look, I do let the listeners know. It's a pre-recorded conversation that we're having, and I like saying good evening because it is going to be placed on our evening segment. But it is literally right about what time now? About 10 p.m. in where you are.
Yeah, it's 10:03. Yeah, so
Damn, cheapers, man. You know, obviously we won't keep you up for too long, and obviously we wanted to say thank you for joining us on GQ Radio. It's an absolute pleasure having you here.
yeah. Thank you for having me. No, of course I've been looking forward to this interview, and
Yeah,
it's not a. It's just my schedule's crazy, so I'm up early in the morning, and I'm
yeah.
running around all day long. And last night I only got into bed at like 6 a.m. and then I had to because my brother actually flew in from South Africa on Saturday.
Oh, fantastic, man.
He's been
That's so
around,
cool.
and I'm
That's
showing him
so
around.
cool.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in South Africa are you from originally, Tim?
I was born in Port Elizabeth, but I grew up in
Okay,
Johannesburg. Yeah, so Johannesburg. I'm
okay.
Eastern Cape boy, like born and bred. My family are from there.
Yeah,
Most of the family are
yeah,
in
yeah.
Cape Town now. But
Okay.
my mom Johannesburg, and yeah, I grew up in Johannesburg. Yeah.
Nice, nice. We're actually in the Eastern Cape at the moment. That's where we broadcast from. So it's quite
Cool.
interesting to know that as well. Yeah, man. We in the PE area, Port Elizabeth, and they now call it Gqeberha. That's why it's GQ Radio.
Okay,
Um,
I can't pronounce that,
yeah,
but I know
yeah,
PE.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
obviously,
yeah, yeah. Don't worry. We've
park.
had to learn. We've we've had to learn it. Don't you worry. It becomes quite easy once you get to say it every single day. And that's
Did
why
they
we call it
did
GQ
they,
Radio. It's the easiest way.
yeah. Did they keep the university name the same? It used to be University of Port Elizabeth, then it became Nelson Mandela Bay University. What is it now?
Yeah, it's still Nelson Mandela Bay University. Yeah, not NMU, Nelson Mandela University.
Yeah. So I actually had a band in PE for a while,
Okay.
in my 20s. Yeah, I was in a band called Copperscotch, and I think the guys still
All
play.
right.
They at the Music Kitchen and all those sort of live music.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, Music Kitchen is still around. Don't worry, they're still jamming around, doing their
yeah,
thing, getting all the artists from South Africa to come and do their
yeah,
thing here. Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely
yeah.
fantastic. Now I
Hmm.
think that's another great conversation to have with regards to the local talents that we've got here. But you tell us more about your journey thus far because we want to get into the album release and obviously the single Velvet Staircase. Now, let us in a little bit of a secret as to how this song came about. What is the story behind it, and how did it come out to be heard now on GQ Radio?
Okay, so basically, the song is sort of based on me going for a jog on the beach in the Western Cape around Hout Bay,
Yeah.
and I was really just the melody came to me, and it just like while I was running, I just couldn't stop thinking of this chord progression and this melody. So I went home and I picked up an acoustic guitar and just started jamming, and this thing came to me, and in my mind, I
Mm,
want to compare it to bands or groups, but I had this sort of crowded house mixed with REM and Counting
yeah.
Crows type thing in my head about it. But then when I wrote it, it sounded very like I don't know, I guess Beatlesque to me. I'm a huge Beatles fan, so for me, it's like,
Oh,
okay, cool.
fantastic.
The chorus is there now. Let's sort of put the verses together and stuff. So when we
Mm,
recorded it last year, because we started tracking it probably around this time last year, sort of July,
okay.
August.
Okay.
Um, in between performing live and in between teaching and all of that sort of thing, and it
Mm,
sounded rad. And then I bought a really nice microphone that I've wanted for ages. Actually, I've wanted this
yeah.
mic since for maybe 15 to 17 years. It's like one of these
Wow.
studio mics that the guys, all the big guys use live.
Okay.
But then obviously
Nice.
they record the performance. So like I saw like
Mm.
Muse, Bellamy, he used that mic, and Nora
Okay.
Jones, I think maybe Chris Cornell or somebody, one of those sorts of singers. And that's kind of, then I started tracking the vocals on the 3 track.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Wow. I like
Yeah.
the fact that you mentioned some of your the guys that you look up to, and obviously with regards to sound and everything else like that. I was raised with that same similar genre, obviously back in the day. And the Beatles hit home quite hard for me because it was my dad's favorite band as well. And I was raised with the Beatles, man. I literally could sing along to any of their songs, and probably still could today. Um,
Yeah.
is that kind of the sound that Tim Hendricks wants to bring out with the forthcoming album, same name, Velvet Staircase?
I mean, I would say it influences my songwriting, and I'm a huge John Lennon fan. I actually went to the
Yeah.
Dakota Hotel in New York City or Manhattan in '08. And before that,
Okay.
I was a huge Paul McCartney guy because I'm also
Yeah.
kind of a all-rounder. I play everything, or a little bit of
Okay.
everything. And then, but when I went to where John Lennon was shot at the Dakota, it really did something. And then there was like basically a little memorial place in Central Park outside the
Yep.
Dakota in his memory. And I actually bought one of these pictures. It's like a stone and it says "Imagine." It's like these stones. It's quite
Mm. Mm.
pretty famous, like black and white. And I bought that for my
Yep.
house. It's actually still in Johannesburg. And I mean, getting to the Beatles, that's sort of my main inspiration. The guys here in China, they know I love the Beatles. And I think basically every day there's something on my
Yeah.
Facebook about John Lennon or the Beatles. Yes, that's a few things.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. I like that. And I think that a lot of the artists of today have that, they look at the artists of their time. So, if you're looking at a young 16, 17, 18-year-old artist coming out now, they're all looking up to the Ed Sheerans and
Mm,
those kind of artists because those are the ones they've been listening to as they've grown older.
mm,
Not a bad thing. I mean, not knocking Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran's, yeah, well, he's Ed Sheeran. But I just feel that I think a lot of the music has been lost along the way, if that makes sense. I think that
yeah.
words and lyrics of the songs that come out today just don't hit as hard as something as from yesteryear because back then the
Mm.
music actually meant something. It was like every lyric
Yeah,
that you heard, every word that you heard from there, every verse would hit hard and
everything.
they would give you a message.
Things were censored, so they had to be a little bit more coy with their lyrics and their message.
True,
There was always a
true.
double entendre or an innuendo that was subtle, but kind
Yep.
of apparent to teenagers of the time or young people. But I think basically
Mm,
for a vocal group with three really good singers and they could blend their voices well together, and then two incredible songwriters and one really decent songwriter. So a
mm,
lot of this, and then obviously George Martin as the producer, and everybody else
yep.
they had around them, and the engineers and all of that. I just feel like that gave the world something. Like here we are 50, 60 years later still talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
it was like a renaissance for music. It was a revolution. So I mean, I'm a huge Beatles fan in the sense that they got to the point within what 2.5 minutes
Yeah.
in two
Yeah.
and a half
Absolutely.
say a whole bunch of stuff because it was just basically hook, 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 hook. The
Yep.
moment they started the
Yep.
song, you were caught. So
Absolutely.
I have that kind of talent or ability, but I do admire what they did. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I've noticed, and obviously looking through everything we got from PR, is that this album is the first bit of work and stuff that's been written since 2018. Now, is there a story behind that? Obviously, we had 2020, and everyone will never forget 2020, 2021. We all know what happened during that time. But is there a story behind that as to the body of work progressing
Yeah.
from the time to now? How'd that story go for you?
Every time I release an album, so I released it in 2018. That was Hopeless Wonder,
Yep.
the Tim Hendricks project that we recorded in Constantia. So I was in studio with
Oh,
probably
fantastic.
20 of my guitars on a wine
Yeah.
farm in Constantia at a Digital Forest Studio with my
Okay.
mate and we produced the album together. And I was there for about 2 weeks, and when we mixed and mastered it, and it went out, and then Joanne from Ticky Box Media grabbed it and put it out there
Yep.
for me. Everything. I do have a publishing deal with Sheer Music, and I've had one for
Okay.
ages. And then Sheer liked what they heard, and a guy called Brett Foster sort of took it to, I think it was Mydium in Paris,
Okay.
and they had a chance with Rob Cowling from Gallo
Yes.
Records.
Yes.
So
I know Rob
they,
pretty well.
yeah, and then they sort of decided they wanted to release my 2 albums. So I had 2 albums. I did one
That's
in Joshua
fantastic,
Tree,
man.
and then I did
Yeah.
one in Constantia. So they re-released everything in 2019 in December when I was in Thailand.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. Basically, there was 20 songs that were out. And then, like you say, COVID happened. I came to
Yeah.
China and I just started playing live a lot. And I just loved playing live again. And
Mm-hmm.
I was constantly recording songs, like as in on my phone and stuff like that. And just like
Mm-hmm.
the commercial side of it, the commercial release through, iTunes and all the rest of it, that I never think there's going to be a period of time before another body of work comes out. But for some
Yeah.
reason, it works out like that for me. I mean, I think I first released my first solo album in 2010 or 2009,
Okay.
like before that. And then the
Yeah.
next one was 2015. And then the couple that came out, or 2018 and 2019. And here we
Mm-hmm.
are again, 2023. So yeah, it's not the way I plan it. It's just the way it works out. It's, how the music
Nah, look.
entertainment
Yes.
is. The recording
Yes.
part's the key part, and that's the beautiful part. But then getting it out there and getting people to
Mm,
listen and actually like
mm.
it take off if it does, and all the PR that goes behind it, that's a whole
Yeah.
other beast.
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. I also think that's one side of it, obviously, but I think that when an artist doesn't release, like everyone expects, okay, now they dropped this fire track. This is like the bomb, and then
okay,
they expect the next one to come hot off the heels like 3 or 4 or 5 months later, which just is not the way it is. We as listeners and the public always expect new things so like urgently when it comes to like music and stuff that we enjoy. But a body of work like an album, it doesn't just happen overnight. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Like you've mentioned, there's hours of writing and hours of rewriting, and there's hours of recordings and masterings and re-recordings
yeah,
and logistics and all the rest that goes into it. And I mean,
mhm.
I think that when a body of work takes 2 or 3 years to release, then you know that whatever you've released is going to be exactly what you wanted to release.
Right. So
Um,
that's what I
yeah.
was going to get to. So for me, the actual recording process and the mixing process is usually very quick. The album I recorded was pretty much live, and the guy I basically worked with everybody: the Rolling Stones, the Sex Pistols, the Doors. He was like really good friends with the engineer from Pink Floyd and all of that sort of stuff.
Mm,
And we've known each other for a long time. He was in Hollywood. I met him and now we were in Joshua Tree, kind of in the desert. It was super hot, and then it's just the two of us tracking everything for these songs, right? And his
mm,
whole mission was no editing, no auto tune, no gimmicks, just straight rock and roll and make the record.
Sheepers.
Also, yeah,
Mm,
no drop-ins. So in other words, you play the whole take. You're not playing from certain sections. So it's exactly like they used to do it back in the day when it was reel to reel. And there's a
yeah.
certain element that came out of that. I feel like there's an energy, there's a vibe, there's a little bit of swagger, and that was nice. So at
Mm,
the point that took about a month, but then the release, like I had to wait for him to mix it, and then I waited a couple more months, and then the master had to come out. So exactly what you're saying, that has nothing
yep.
to do with, what I mean. That's the engineer
Exactly.
who's being
Mm,
also taking his time with things because he's got a bunch of other things he's doing, etc., etc. So that's,
precisely.
but time has passed by very quickly. I mean, I'm 41 now, and to be honest
Yeah.
with you, when I tracked those songs, I was like 35, 36, and then we did the media around that when the records came out, and it didn't seem
Mm,
like I was waiting for a couple of years. I just got busy. I got to a point where I was like, look, my life has to be balanced. I'm getting on in age, and I
yeah.
want to have a family, and I've committed, 20 odd years to my music career, and here I am.
Mm,
Their kids are like 12, 13, teenagers, and I don't have a kid yet. That's
yeah.
where I was, and I'm not married and all the rest of it. So I
Mm,
decided to settle down and be in an environment that I felt was conducive to raising a family, and to a certain
absolutely.
extent, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, definitely, man. I respect that, man. It's, I think that everyone comes to that point in life. I think that when you're in the industry like yourself, in the music industry, in the media industry itself, it's time does fly without you even realizing it. It's in a blink of an eye, and you're looking at, hey, 30 years later, and it's like,
well, I'll
should I have settled down?
I'll give you a story. So, like in Port Elizabeth, when I was there, and I had the band, and we were doing sort of the coastal side, the coastal cities, Port Alfred, playing. I think it
Yeah,
was Barney at the time. Barney's is still there. Is that what they call it?
Barney's is still there. Yeah,
Okay, so I was there with my acoustics singing and playing bass, and there was a band and whatnot. And we're talking like 02, 03, right? And
okay.
then there was a record company called PT Records, and that was basically my first studio experience, and it was very
Wow.
nice. I'm trying to think of the area. I forget now because I haven't been living in PE for ages,
Yeah.
and I haven't visited for about half a decade now. But the bottom line is that's where I cut my teeth, and there was like a Studio A and a Studio B. And my mate
Hmm.
Dave Daniels, I think he was in Studio B, and that's where I learned everything about sort of production. I started with that, and then there was a friend of mine,
Mm,
Nikki Williams or Nicole Williams, and she was doing some advert for Cell C, just doing a voiceover. She was about 14, I'm about 20, and we met up there. And the next thing, we were in Hollywood together. Fast forward a decade later, and
wow.
she did her thing, and then I'm doing my thing. But basically, it started off in P, and we actually made a deal at Green Acres. We were outside Green Acres Mall, and we
Yeah.
were a bunch, doing the. I mean, we were getting a bit of media, with the P Express and the bands, the printing stuff about us, and I did this TV show,
Yeah.
whatever. Bottom line was, she said we kind of made a deal. We were like, okay, whoever makes it first helps the other one. We both wanted to end up in Hollywood, doing music.
Yeah, man.
Still dream like that. Now everything with the internet has changed the music business. It's changed everything.
It
Facebook,
has.
you know. Back then it was
Yeah.
just like, just have one single, record a bunch of music. The one single will sell the whole album. People will buy the album.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
hundred bucks. It's not a big deal, and that's how you went
Yeah.
on. And if you sold 10,000, 20,000 units, you were like, okay, I can make a living. I can pay the record company back, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Now
Hmm.
you've got the AWs, and everybody's on a laptop and editing and making beats and doing stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. Or you've got a guy like Ed Sheeran playing Wembley on with the loop station without a band. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
why not have a band, bro? If you're that big, I mean, and you've got like however many thousand people looking at you, that's a bit narcissistic. My vibe is like, yo, bro, just hire a drummer. I mean, come on, put a groove to it and then throw down.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I totally feel you on that one.
Yeah.
Any final words for us there, Tim? Obviously, with the album release and everything else, how excited are you with the release of that? And what can our listeners look forward to soon?
Yeah. I'm excited for people to sort of hear the new direction. I think I've gone a little different. I would say it has a big out of time REM sort of feel, automatic for the people in terms of
Yeah.
production elements. Because I started going back to those early, like the Jeff Buckley records. And I mean, obviously, I always listened to Oasis and the sort of shoegaze, grungy stuff.
Hmm.
And then Dave Matthews. But I started noticing the newer albums that came out didn't have the same impact that those albums had when came out. When I was a
Yeah.
teenager, I was learning how to play
Yeah.
guitar with it. So the idea
Yeah.
with this record, it's that it's like a pop rock record, but it's also throwback to the early 90s without
Hmm.
sounding retro or without being nostalgic. Just I think
Hmm.
you'll taste that flavor. There's a bit of that tinge. Because,
Yeah.
it just hit me. I was like, wait, hang on. I want to make that sort of impactful sound. Like if you listen to, I guess, Man on the Moon, it's like you can't help but
Yeah.
sing that. It's just too catchy.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
even Losing Religion. There's so much, and the lyrics just engulf you because they are not straight.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Mm,
I went
mm,
through on a REM sort of phase again, and songwriting sort of like, let's just make really good tunes, and whatever comes out, whether it sounds folky or whether it's rock and roll or whether it's
yep.
ballady piano, like let's do it. Let's make good stuff. So I'm really excited. I'm excited for how it would be received. I think people are going to be a little pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you've said that because I think we are definitely going to be very surprised and maybe just more excited about what's to come still. Tim, I don't want to take any more of your time. I want to thank you for being on the show with us and just
Yeah.
having a bit of a chat about the single. Where can our listeners get a hold of the music first and foremost, and where can they reach you on socials?
Yeah, so they can go to Apple Music or what is it, iTunes and
Hmm.
Amazon. I think it's on most places. I think these days you can't really intellectually protect your stuff, so it's probably even on YouTube at this point. But I mean, if you want to
Yep.
support African artists and music, then you can definitely find it on digital format, any digital format. Um,
Fantastic, man.
yeah, that's what I could say without trying to promote myself too much. But I
No,
would,
no, that's what we hear. That's what we
yeah,
hear. We got to try and get you out there, man. Get some people coming to your page and saying, "Hey, Tim, we love that
yeah,
song." That's what it's
yeah,
about here.
yeah. My handle is at Timmy Hendricks, Timmy Hendricks,
Okay.
obviously Ricks.
Yeah.
That's for Twitter, and then it's also Instagram, and then my Facebook is just Tim Hendricks or Tim Hendricks Project. Yeah, you can.
Perfect.
If you want to add me as a friend, you just look for Timothy Hendricks, and that's me. Yeah,
Awesome. Now,
cool,
lekker, man. Tim, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, and we definitely look forward to hearing from you again, man.
awesome, Laka.
Shot, man. Ciao,
All
ciao.
right.